Hi, welcome back to Calm Before the Storm. I'm Kim,
I'm Steph.
And I'm Kimberly.
and today we have our very first guest to the show. Give her a round of applause.
Yes.
She is a wife, she is a mom, she is a professional life coach, she is a daughter. She has a book on Amazon called Prayer to the Lord, and we want to welcome Keisha Beverly Everson.
Yes.
Woo!
Welcome, welcome,
Thank
welcome.
you. Welcome,
Thank you
Keisha.
so much for coming on the show. I've known Keisha for over 20 years. She's been my neighbor. And I said, Keisha, I need you to come on the show. And she said yes without even thinking about it. So thank you.
Yes,
Thank you
Yes,
so
thank
thank
much for
you.
you.
the invite. I'm so happy to be here. Like we're one big happy family, so I'm ready to
Absolutely.
see how things
Yes,
Yes,
are going.
So
yes.
before we talk about your book, I want to let you know what we talked about last week. Last week we talked about life and work and balancing like just overall like kids and like your mental health and everything. And we wanted
mhm,
to dive in more. We talked about, mom guilt, mom and dad guilt, and how can we prioritize everything. But this week we want to go more in depth with our mental health, right? So
Right.
like let's say we have our jobs, right? We have our 9 to 5s and we have our kids, but our 9 to 5 is really stressing us out, right? It's like it could be a
mhm.
manager, it could be a coworker, and it's just it becomes stressful. These
Yeah.
jobs become stressful. Like I've had a job where the lady that was supposed to be my team leader was just not, she just didn't like me. She didn't want to help me out. And it mentally, it affected me and it got me sick physically.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Mm.
So, have you ladies ever had something like that, like work? And I know you guys have kids, so it's like work and kids, it becomes a lot.
Yes, yes.
It's
I was just discussing this at work too, because we're up for mid-year reviews. And so, mid-year review, you pretty much have to sell yourself. And a lot of us took that as a negative in a way, like their verbiage, because it's like, sell myself. All the work I've done selling myself is like, and we've been overworked, we're overwhelmed, and it's like a lot of us are putting in the survey, we're trying to find that work-life balance.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And so that's just like a huge thing for me. What about you, Steph?
Absolutely. We have a lot of stress. What I do is just stressful in itself, being a nurse on labor and delivery. So it can go from a happy moment to a chaotic moment in 2 seconds. So it's hard to find that balance of if I have more than one patient, I got to go from a crazy chaotic moment to a, hey, how you doing? I'm here to help you today and be, normal. And that's after a while, sometimes it can drain on you. Um, so it's hard, it's difficult. Sometimes it gets the best of you and your body just shuts down and you're like, I just
Hmm.
want to sleep for like 2, 3 days. I don't even want to think anymore.
Hmm.
So yes, I've experienced that.
Or even with
Yeah.
you with being a nurse in labor delivery, you see good and bad. So, I mean, kudos to you because I don't think I would be able to handle something like
Right.
that.
Thank you.
Right.
That's a lot.
I feel like I can't handle it sometimes, but
I know
we
I
find a
can
way.
imagine. Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
I'm glad you're in the delivery room smiling. At least, that warm face does so much when you're stressed out in those instances, right? Because you just don't know what's
Mm.
going to happen next.
It does, and
Right.
I get to see people like in their best moment and in their worst moment, and that switch has to come on for me so that I can help them. No matter what's
Hmm.
happening in my life, I have to turn that off and now
Right.
be here for you.
Right.
Right.
So now,
Yeah.
even with mental health, that goes into like relationships as well, right? We're
Yeah.
trying to balance everything and keep our kids happy and our spouse happy,
Hmm.
right? And then what if you have like problems at home?
Right.
That's something that's like, okay, your mental health is seriously being affected by it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes I see people go to work more often when they're having problems at home. They may not say it, but
Hmm.
you're like, oh my God, you're here all the time, you have a whole family. And then later on, it comes out like, oh, things just didn't work out. I feel like sometimes it's a gift and a curse. You don't want to go to work because it stresses you out, but then if you're stressed at home, you're like, you know what? I'll keep my mind occupied and I'll go to
Mhm.
work.
Right.
Yeah, I think work can be a safe space for people.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that safe space allows for things that you could be missing at home. So, like
Mhm.
Right.
attention, right?
Mhm.
So, if you're on,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
your team cares about you and they see you coming in and they're like, Kimberly, thank God you're here versus you left your
Right.
house where your spouse hasn't spoken to you in 2 days, right? And
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
so, a lot of times, a love and attention and the things that you miss at home, you can get from your team when things are going well.
Mhm.
Right.
And that opportunity really allows you to dig deep when you're working, right? And it allows you to do even better work because you get the energy, just like you would in any other relationship, to keep going. You want to
Mhm.
keep
Right.
showing up. You want to keep doing better. You want to write your review to tell all the things you've done. People are raving about you, and you start to feel really
Mm-hmm.
good. And I think it's interesting that you mentioned this, especially like today and what's happening in the world, because what happens when you're laid off?
Right.
Right.
And that mental stress and that strain because you put all of that energy into a
Mm-hmm.
space that didn't be necessarily belong to you, right?
Mhm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So when you put energy and space and time in places that belong to you, like the love you have for patients and the way that you are able to, bring who you are to work, the
Mhm.
more you
Mm-hmm.
keep those things. But the things that you get from work that are just work, those
Yeah.
opportunities go away when you're no longer working. That's why it's important for your mental health to
Mhm.
really think about where your career is, what you're doing, and where your happiness lies. Because if you have to change roles and positions and companies, you can do so easily without feeling the strain if you're doing something that you personally love.
I
If that,
agree. I know there's a
Right.
lot. I know a lot of people who are not happy at their jobs, right? And I always say, if you was to leave, they wouldn't even care. They will replace
Mm-hmm.
you within the
Right.
next day.
Yep.
So I feel like your mental health, you need to be somewhere where you're happy. I know it's not easy to just get up and find another job real quick, but there are some that can. But stress and I researched and it says that according to Forbes Health, 56 of employed US adults report job stability as their source of stress.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That goes back to what Keisha said. Like if you get laid off, all that stress just piles right back
Yes.
on.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah, even if you lose a manager, right? Imagine you build this relationship with someone
Mm-hmm.
and you're a leader-led employee, which is somebody who's really focused on the leader they work for. And that leader gives them, they don't like what they do, they hate where they work, but the person
Mm-hmm.
they work for, that's their guy or that's their gal, that's their person.
Mm-hmm.
And they, again, get that energy and that excitement that they may be missing in other parts of their life from that person. And if that person transitions and moves on, it causes an immense amount of change. And
Mm-hmm.
when you're not prepared for change and you have like imbalances happening, then you find yourself like lost. And
Mm-hmm.
that loss is what causes anxiety, and that loss is what causes stress, and that loss is what, I don't know the percentage of Americans right now on antidepressant medication,
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Very high,
but
I'm sure.
yeah,
Right.
antidepressant medication, anti-anxiety medication, and it's because they're trying to find ways to cope with the one thing that we know is constant, which is change.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And coping with change is tough.
Yeah, I don't like
Right.
It's,
change.
No.
I don't
I
The
think
don't like
teacher of
most
habit.
people. Yes.
Right.
habits help, right? And then when
Mm.
the changes, if you think about it, all three of us right now are experiencing some form of change in
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
some of our lives. It's like no matter what it is, everybody, myself included,
Yeah,
experience.
when we started this podcast, I know the three of us was nervous and scared, and
Right.
then
Absolutely.
we was like, let's just do it and get it done and go from there. And within our
Mm-hmm.
first episode, it did so well that we're like, now we're calm about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Like the calm before the storm, right? It's like
Right.
you kind of
We
hello.
was
That's the name of the podcast. That's
Right.
why it worked, right? It was the
we was like, we
calm
don't know about if
before
we're
the
gonna
storm.
go into a storm, but we're gonna go in
Right.
That's right.
We
You know
headed on
why?
in.
You know why it really worked too, Steph, Kimberly, and Kim. You know why it really worked? It's because you're doing something that is beyond what it is. It's not just a podcast. It has a
Mhm.
purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And so
Right.
anything that you do and deliver that has purpose and meaning
Mhm.
will always thrive and do well. Period. Like that's just
Mm.
how that works. It's when you think about it, like you just mentioned, the job, right? Like jobs are hard, jobs are tough. If you go to work though with the attitude of I'm here to bring joy to someone's life, I'm here to create wealth for my family so my kids can know what's happening next, or if it's like, hey, I'm here to be my best self every day, like as long as it's
Mhm.
beyond exactly what you're doing and it has more purpose and meaning, those are the things that thrive really well. That makes
Hmm.
sense.
I agree.
That
Yes.
makes a lot of sense. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I did more data, I did more research, and it said, according to recent data from the American Psychological Association, according around three quarters, 76% of Americans reported experiencing health impacts due to stress in the past month,
Mhm.
indicating a significant level of stress across the population. So like we said, it's just it like it affected me so bad that I was going to work, I would do my job, I would go to this person like, "Hey, can you help me with this?" And they would be like, "Oh, you have to try to figure it on your own." And I'm the type of person that I like to be like everything organized. I like to make
Right.
sure I'm getting it done correctly. And I was just like getting high blood pressure. I was stressed all the time, and I would go to my manager like, "Hey, I don't know why this person doesn't want to help me." And she was like, "Oh, we had a lot of people say that before."
Mm.
Mhm.
I'm like, "Oh, okay." It
Right.
didn't work out in the end between me and that job.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm thankful for it because I didn't see myself going far in there anyway.
Mm.
Right.
Mhm.
I mean,
But
there's just some people that are unhappy in life, and they choose to sprinkle that
mhm,
everywhere they go.
right,
Yes.
right.
Unfortunately. And if they feel like, I feel like sometimes that comes from insecurity as something like, I can't
Mm.
teach you what I know because you may take my job.
Yes.
Mhm.
You hear that a
Yeah.
lot, you know, like, oh,
Yes.
I think you trying to take over, or they hired you because they think they're gonna replace me. I'm gonna give you just a small snippet, and you're gonna have to learn on
Mm-hmm.
your own.
Crazy.
Hurt people hurt people. You know,
Absolutely.
Right.
hurt
Hmm.
people definitely hurt people. And if you've been hurt before, if you're currently hurting, you don't even sometimes see how you're hurting someone else.
Right.
Right.
And that's why a lot of us go to like self-preservation. Like we gotta make sure we're good, because if
Hmm.
we sit here and expect someone else to understand, like when they're hurting us, sometimes they never get it. You get what I mean?
Mm.
Even when we're talking to
Mm-hmm.
and we're saying, manager, this is a problem. Like at some point you have to, and you did the best thing for you, which is you course corrected. But it's like after you've been through something that has affected your health. I
Right.
remember working, and tons of people were doing like EKGs because they were having like heart palpitations. They thought they were like having a heart attack. I'm like, yo, how are you having a heart? Like we, like we, you can't be, right?
Hmm.
Right.
And so that's why companies have influenced like health benefits packages to have
Mm.
all these different things, because they realize employees are coming out with those same health concerns, right? Like the heart palpitations, the
Yep.
overweight,
Hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
you're eating your feelings. Like I have definitely ate my feelings several
Same.
times in life. And I mean, it
Yes.
was emotionally soothing, but then emotionally corrupt, because then it was like,
Exactly.
well, what
Yes.
just happened? Like, what just happened?
Right.
And then it's like you find stability and now you back in the gym, and then, life shifts again. It's like, how many times can you,
Mm.
go back and forth, especially when it comes to like emotional eating? I feel like
Yes.
the eating, the eating, especially if you find someone who supports your eating habit,
Oh my goodness.
or or supports your drinking habit,
Yes.
drink. And I feel like definitely when I had those more jobs that were stressful for everybody, we had more happy hours. I was probably a little
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
happier because we were getting together, which is like fostering
Right.
fostering human connection is important. Like happy hour makes a difference, because you coming together, but
Hmm.
it's like you're
Yes.
coming together and then you're consuming a lot. And at that time, it can work, but the problem occurs sometimes when you get back home, right?
Right.
And you're
Mm-hmm.
still doing it, or post COVID or in COVID. Now you consistently drinking like the
Hmm.
Hmm.
bottles of
Right.
sangria or the bottles of wine, or now you become a mixologist and now you out here, you know, chefing up drinks every night. And
Yes.
again, something that's meant to be a libation, like get you happy, just a little bit of a celebration piece, can turn, just like everything else in life. Everything that's good can get bad
Hmm.
if
Right.
it's if
Mm.
it's used in a way that can be over the top. But
Mm-hmm.
it's
Right.
also because we're going through something and we
Right.
human.
Yes.
So
Right.
sometimes if you got to use it to get through the day, you got to really start to measure and balance how you can do that without
Mm,
over indexing and then
Right.
putting yourself in even more health risk.
Absolutely.
yes.
Absolutely. We
I
have a
agree.
saying at work where we say, we are bonded by some trauma, and we're joking while we say this, but we are
Mm-hmm.
really serious deep down inside. It's like
Mm-hmm.
come out of this chaotic delivery and we're all like frazzled, and then when we finally calm down, it's like we start cracking jokes about it just so we could kind of get through it.
Yes.
And then it's like, how do you jump from now you're eating after you done saw this gory moment, and it's like,
Mm.
how do we do this? It's like, and we laugh together. It's like we just bonded by trauma, guys.
Yeah. It's so crazy. And I'm part of the happy hour crew. Well, was. So I understand that too. Part of the
Yes.
happy hour crew. But yeah, and it's the same conversation. Like, the stress here and like, all right, we're gonna meet after work. Like we don't gotta rush home. Like we meet I'll be there, happy hour, I'm there.
And then
So
Yeah.
I get it.
happy hour used to have music and dancing and all the other stuff. Now
Yes.
they just skipped all that part. They're like, let's bring the drinks and,
Bring on
and
the
put the
drink.
bring the drinks and bring the TV and let's just sit and watch. Like
Yes.
that's what occurred. And that sitting and that sedentary opportunity to continue to sit down, that didn't help either. But because
Right.
now,
Right.
like before, when you used to have music and it was dancing and it was lively and it
Work it
was fun,
off.
you worked it off a little
Yes.
bit.
Yeah.
Now ain't no working it off. Now you sitting
No,
there,
there's
you
no
got to
working it
call
off.
a Uber. It's a little different. It's a little. Hopefully, you
Your
call
car's
Uber, a
staying
Lyft.
there, you got to come back tomorrow to get it. Becomes
Right.
Right. You gotta left. You had to leave your car. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because you done had too many. Because you're not dancing like you used to. You're
yeah.
not doing what you used to do to get it popping. But now you just sitting there drinking.
Oh
So
yeah.
Yeah,
it happens.
it
Yes.
does.
So now we want to better ourselves, right? After all of
Yes,
that.
we do. We definitely
Right?
do.
Yes,
We want
yes.
to we want to get better.
Mhm.
So, what do you guys think, right? Last week we talked about therapy, right? Like
Hmm.
for our mental health, just therapy. Kimberly, she stated that in her job, she has a life coach, a coach
Mhm.
that she speaks to,
Yeah.
and at how many times did you
They
say?
do it they do it once or twice a month. It's really up to you. They offer it once or twice a month. It's a free 20 minutes and they pretty much just, you have conversation, they meet with you, they give you like little things you can do. And then at the second half of the month, they kind of just check in to see where you are with what it is that you set in motion for the beginning of the month.
Right. So her job provides that, which I think every job should
Mm-hmm.
have. I think that's amazing to have something like that. And then yoga, meditation, j I think just speaking to someone is to me the most effective way to stable your men this
Yeah.
letting it out. Once
Right.
sometimes once you let it out, you just be like, "Whew, I feel better now."
Yep.
Get it off your
Yeah.
chest.
Weight
Right.
lifted. Mm-hmm.
And we have writing down affirmations, reading, going for a walk in the park, getting some
Mm-hmm.
coffee, just getting out, getting some air. Um, and also some people find comfort with going to church,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Speaking to God, praying to God. And Keisha, that's where you fall in because you came out with a book on Amazon called Letters to the Lord, and it's a prayer
Mm-hmm.
journal. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, thank you for mentioning it. I created a prayer journal because I even myself had come to a place where it was like, I need to write some things down that I'm
Mm-hmm.
experiencing. Because to your point, we experience a lot, and some of it we want to forget, right? And when I realized that, and in studying and learning and growing, I realized that there's this big opportunity for us to actually write down the emotions that we're going through. So when I created the journal, it was really created for people who are in coaching programs or who are in like 21 days of prayer and fasting. But then it's also for people like me and you and people who will watch this podcast who are at home going through life on their own, right? Really
Mm-hmm.
being independent. So a lot of us write in books or on paper, but it's good to put your thoughts in one place so you can go back and reflect on how and what the changes were over time. So that's what the journal does. And when you write things, it does two things. One, yep, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
When you write things, it does two things. One is kind of scary for some folks, which it makes it real.
Hmm.
Mm,
So it makes it real. So now, you're writing in your journal, today I had a great day. It was trauma bonding with my coworkers. That also happened to lead to me, with 17 margaritas in. But I know the thing about when you're journaling, especially in the journal that's created, that I created, the best part about it is you really get an opportunity to be honest with yourself. And you could say, after my 17 margaritas, I realized that, you know, that I'm hurting, and
mm,
this is what hurts,
Hmm.
and this is what I'm hoping for. And that's why it's letters to the Lord, because it's a letter that you're writing and you're sharing and expressing. And letters, literally, like the letters you type, right? Or that you write, are saying what you want your change to look like and be, right? And
mm,
change takes time too. So as you write and you share, people use the journal in different ways. Some do daily reflections. I have some clients who use it to say what they want the day to look like and then
mm.
go back and look at it. I have others who use it to say, like, dear God, like, here's my bills for the month. Like, I'm just,
Oh, right.
if this comes through, then boom. You know what I mean? You write it,
Yes.
you're collecting it in a place
Mm,
that is sacred and it's special and it's yours and you use it. And so, as you were saying, like journaling, why do you create a journal? You write things down, you make them plain, you believe in the vision, it spiritually connects you to what you believe or who you believe will help you to get to where you have to go. And even if that person in self evaluation is you.
mm.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
even if you're
Yes.
not spiritually connected to a specific religion, no matter what, all of us are spiritually connected to ourselves,
Right.
and it's holding yourself accountable. Because I did a podcast on this other day, when you're in the gym, mental gym, and you're trying to become resilient, nobody's boxing with you but you. Like, even if
Right.
you're married, you got these kids,
Mhm.
nobody's going through what you go through. Nobody has to close their eyes and go to bed with what's on your mind except for you. So that's why the journaling is so important.
Were you doing journaling before you even came out with the book?
Yeah, definitely. I found myself writing all the time, right? And
Mm,
so I love, and Kim will tell you, Kimberly could tell you too, but Kim will tell you, like, I'm the kind of person who, like, I'll go and sit down at church. Like, I'll just go sit and I'll just with my book and I'll just write, like, God, thank you for this, thank you for that. I wish this would happen. I wish that would happen. Because it's just, who can you tell your private thoughts to? So
right.
I was definitely writing my private thoughts down all the time. But then I got to a place where I wasn't able to write to God. I was only able to talk
Mm,
to God. Like, I could be like, God, save my sanity when it comes to, like, what's happening at home,
right.
or
Mhm.
like, my parents are elderly, this is tough, or like this relationship with this friend, it just feels wrong. Like, I could talk to him, but I couldn't write it, because writing it felt like if he didn't show up for me,
Mhm.
Mm,
I don't know what I was going to do, because he always showed up, right? And so
Mhm.
I
right.
had to get to a point where I could write it and be okay with writing it and believing in what I was writing, that it did happen and it did really suck. But then here's the change and the transition
Mm-hmm.
where I am. And that there's strength in that transition of being able to talk directly to God, and then also being able to write it. And so what's funny is Kimberly mentioned her review at work, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And when you write your review at work, what you're
Mm-hmm.
doing is you're committing yourself to what you did in the past and what you're doing in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the strongest exercise that you can do. Because it's one thing to go in your manager's office and be like, yeah, Jack, I'm gonna, what I'm saying? I got this. Like, you patience, baby.
Right.
I'm never missing a day of work. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, like da 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 da. And you're
Right.
like, Jack is like, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, me too, Jack. And then you leave. And then Jack is like, cool. And then you're like, cool. But who's going to remember what you said, how you said it, what you committed to?
Right.
And
Mhm.
then,
Right.
like, it's supposed to be, and it can be a proud document for you to go back on and be like, well, Jack, I committed to this particular
Mm-hmm.
data point. And not only did I do that data point, now I did that times five.
Right.
So, where's my money? Give me my money. Give me my money. Is that what they say?
The TikTok
Where's,
thing. Just give me my
where's
money.
Right.
give
Yes.
me my money, right? Like, where's my money? But it's also like, you know what, Jack? I've been working here for 5 years and I've been killing it.
Right.
And so it's also the confidence you have to go and move forward. And I use a lot of job examples and work examples because I do work in HR, right? And so it's
Mm,
easier sometimes to talk that way because people get it. But it's the same thing in your real life.
Hmm.
Right.
So as you're writing these things and as you're seeing yourself growing, I went from 16 margaritas to two seltzer waters,
right, right.
and a walk in the park. I deserve this trip to Cabo. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
deserve this. And so you start rewarding yourself the same way you would expect your job to reward you, right? And that helps your
Mm,
mental health because you got to transition the same things you learn sometimes at work to you at home.
Hmm.
Right.
So what
Yeah.
I like to
right.
do is every day, um, in another notebook, not Keisha's journal, in another notebook, every morning I wake up and I say what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that I woke up this morning. I'm thankful for my family. And then as I go in more, I'll start thanking for things that I want in life as if I already
Mm,
have it.
Hmm.
Okay.
And then I put
right.
myself, what would I feel in that moment? So I'm preparing myself for when it does happen. Because I believe it's going to happen. If you believe something is going to happen, it will happen. That's what I think.
Mm,
What do you ladies feel about
I
Good.
agree. I agree. I was journaling, and Keisha brought up something that was really interesting because when I went through a separation, I used to journal so much. And I remember the first couple of days going to the beginning of that journal and like, oh my God, like I'm really going through it. Am I really ever going to get out of this space? Because every journal entry was the same. The
Hmm.
perspective was the same. The vision was the same. It wasn't until maybe like a couple months ago, I went through that journal and I was like, you go, girl. Like, you made it, where
it?
you didn't see the end of that tunnel or the sunshine after that storm. Look at where you are today. And I say to her point because I used to do the same thing. Like I'm writing this and, God is here all the time and it's just gonna, but at the point that you're in it, it's like you don't see what's
Right.
happening, how it's happening. And I just stopped cold turkey journaling and prayer for me has become like everything. Bad days, good days, appreciation, gratitude. I turn to prayer and I haven't touched the journal, but like I'll journal for other things. I'm a yoga instructor, so it's kind of like,
Hmm.
you do your affirmations and stuff,
Hmm.
Hmm.
but the whole life stuff, it's like a conversation with God. And for me, it's built a strong bond too. But
Hmm.
just to be able to go back to that journal and see where I've come, it's amazing.
Absolutely. I used to
Mhm.
journal too for the same reason during a separation. And I lost the journal like midway through and I went cold turkey, didn't journal anymore. When I bought my home and I was unboxing the stuff, I my husband found the journal and opened it just to like put things away. And he was like, "What is this?" And he's like, "I don't think you really want me to read this because I guess he read like the first two, three sentences." So I didn't remember what it was. And when I opened it, I was like, "Oh my God." And when I read it, I was like, "Oh, what a difference in life where I
Mm.
am today." And he was like, "That's for you. I don't need to read anymore."
Right. Right.
Right, because your emotions is
But
not the same. So it's like you could read it from someone that's like it's like an outside, like,
yes,
like,
yes,
wow, like that's amazing.
yes.
Actually,
And
I'm
it's
proud of you, both of y'all, for going through that and coming out. And look at y'all now.
Look
Mm.
at
Thank
them. Look at
you.
them. They're like,
thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
I love that. And when you like, I really loved what Kimberly said. It's like, everyone's path is different. And so, like what she said,
Mm,
like, I went from writing to, journaling, right? And I went
mm,
from praying, right, consistently out loud to journaling
mhm,
because, the Bible says, write it down and make it plain, right? And
mm,
I think when I was creating the journals, somebody said to me, man, how blessed will Malia, my daughter, and my son Mikai be to see what you were like, how you prayed and what you were praying
mm,
about, and they get to know a little something about you, like years later, like when you're gone,
Right.
right? And I think that for me, like in this form of journaling, is awesome because they're gonna see like it
mm.
wasn't always great.
Right.
Right.
But I was always praying for y'all, right? And I was always praying for me. And like I was experiencing these things and everything turned out, like you said, wonderful, like at the end,
Mm-hmm.
and the way it's supposed to. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's the
Right.
other thing. It's not there's no prescriptive way of doing anything in life except for trusting the process of life. Period. So if
Mm.
you can't say, you should do this, like, oh yeah, you get a journal, write in it, right? I could be like, Kim, get out my journal and start. Why are you writing it here? Write it in there. Do this. Like, that's
Right.
not for it. But
Right.
one day you'll wake up, and one day someone's gonna come over, something's gonna happen, and when that thing happens, then the next thing happens. And our job is just to trust the entire process of how it works. And listening to both of you, all three of you, the process is working real well.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Definitely is.
things are thinging, right? So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
good.
So
And you can
Keisha, is
congratulate.
this, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say,
Oh,
like, honestly, congratulations. And that's the other thing. Who's really stopping their day to hug us and tell us that we're doing so great every day?
Right.
Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
and so that's why I love the journal, because I can hug myself, because
Mm-hmm.
like
Pat yourself on
you
the
gotta,
Yes.
back, right?
right, pat
Right.
yourself on the back, and
Mhm.
and it's good. Self-love, self-care, like you said, is just important.
Yes, it
So
is.
is this just for women or do you have one for men? Is it for men and women?
Yes, yes. So since we last talked, Kim, I done uploaded about 18 different journals online. So
Yes.
you can search by my first and last name. And
Yes.
I have different journals there. And essentially it's the covers that really change
Mm.
for different people, because if you want a journal to give to someone, you may want, like, there's a men's journal, there's a fall journal, there's a journal for brides, mothers to be, things like that. And so I did create a collections of different types of journals because I got that feedback that different people wanted it. More importantly, like in my coaching service, if I'm working with someone and they're like, "Oh, that's so good, I need to write it down," I'm like, "Well, just get the journal, that best fits you, and then you keep it in one place." Because if you
Mm.
have a life coach and you're experiencing this, you want to keep the note to show the progress. You want to see it. Some people are afraid to see the progress. You ever lose weight
Yeah.
before? And it's
Yeah.
like, I feel like I
Mm-hmm.
lost weight, but you don't want to get on the scale, but you lost something, but
Yeah.
you're afraid to know
Yes.
exactly how much it is. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's a real mental thing. And
It
it's
Mm-hmm.
the same,
Yeah.
isn't it not? Like, it's like,
It definitely
you've
is.
been
Mm-hmm.
working, but you could be happy. You could be
Mm-hmm.
Right.
elated, but you can't be defeated because you've been doing the work.
Right.
It's just a lot that we put ourselves up to.
Mm.
Yes. Yes.
It's
And it's
hard.
all from ourselves.
It's
Mm-hmm.
all
Yeah.
for yourself. And
Yeah.
that's why we have to work on that spirit of perfectionism. Because
Mm.
Kim mentioned this, and I meant to say it before, especially the women on this podcast, and probably a lot of the people watching this, are like high performing individuals. So when you're naturally a high performing individual and you enter a situation where you're looking for someone to like seed and water, your high potential, like
Mm-hmm.
opportunity, and they don't, it feels stifling,
Right.
right? Because you can't move forward because you're like, hey, I want to do well. I want to be happy. Like, I want this, I want to give you the best version of me. And
Mm-hmm.
they're just sitting there not doing it. They're not, even in relationships, they're not pouring into you. You do it in friendships all the time. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
giving, giving,
Mm-hmm.
giving, and they're not receiving. And you're like, what more can I do for you to notice and help it?
Right.
So we have to work, not be so caught up in that spirit of perfectionism that comes from being high potential, women on this particular call or anyone watching it. We have to be okay with the fact that we're always going to be high potential. So
Mm.
it doesn't even, like, we are high potential,
Mm-hmm.
whether they see it or not, whether
Right.
they acknowledge it or not. Like, we are high potential, high performing, and we're always going to get it right for what
Right.
we need it to be. You get what I mean? Like, it
Yeah.
Yeah.
comes from
Mm-hmm.
within.
It's that confidence in yourself that you have to have and just believe. You can't worry about the outside noise.
No,
And
No,
no.
even the
I had
inside noise sometimes gets a little heavy, but you
Inside.
It
got to
does.
quiet that too.
I
Yep.
had to, I was the type of person that I always wanted to make other people happy. I always thought about what people, would say behind my back. I just always wanted to be someone, I wouldn't say that was perfect, but I just always thought what people would say about me.
Hmm.
And I guess as I got older, I was like, hey, either you're gonna like me or not. I just gotta be me.
Right.
Yeah. And we
Absolutely.
love you, just so you know. Like,
Oh, thank
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
we
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 do.
love you very much. It's like when courage meets confidence, your potential is super high, because you have to be so courageous, to really not care, like you said, about what anybody else thinks, and you got to be confident in who you are, why you're here on Earth. Period. In
you.
general, right? And then
Hmm.
now you have the highest opportunity to really be yourself and not have that anxiety and that stress. So like when your courage met your confidence is when you just started to bloom really fast.
Mm,
Yeah.
Yes, yes, it's true. Because that's usually what it is. It's like you're afraid to step in. You know you can do it. You just afraid to actually, like you said, you're afraid of success sometimes. And I would
mm-hmm.
say that too. And I realize sometimes I do that to myself. Like I know I could do it, but if it rockets, I'm nervous. What's gonna happen?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
that change factor again. Like, okay, everything's gonna
Yes.
change again. Am I ready for that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Um,
Self-sabotaging too is huge. That
Yes.
self-sabotage, it's you. And then I can only speak for myself. Like you then look for outlets to blame
Mm-hmm.
something or someone else. And it's like, no, it's really just you.
Yeah.
It's
mm-hmm.
just you, that self-sabotage. But again, that comes with that that confidence factor. So Keisha, thanks to you, I'm gonna come into this meeting tomorrow at 8 in the morning and it is gonna be amazing. So thank you. You
You
gave me a different perspective. And every time I have conversation with Steph, I'm always like, okay, well, there's different perspectives. So which perspective are we coming from? So thank you very
that was
much
definitely
because
not my perspective on it. I'm just gonna be honest.
mine either. So I want to say thank you.
You're
But
welcome.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Keisha,
thank
so
you.
would you make for kids as well? Would you make a journal for kids as well?
Mm,
Yeah, I think yeah, especially I know when I was going to school, like journaling, I think fourth grade they started us making little journals and stuff. So I would make one for kids. That one I would make with prompts, right? Because I
Okay.
feel like kids need sometimes prompts to think about, like you said, you write your journal, like what you're thankful for, like those things, like
Mm-hmm.
starting them out to think about those things so then they could, really feel good about what they're writing and then start to write on their own as a kid. So with
Right.
prompts. Sure.
Okay. So
that's
obviously
great.
with us talking about journaling, my question was, how can journaling help with someone that is going through life and needs peace within all the noise that life has sometimes? And I think we covered it. Um, I think it just letting out your feelings just it's like a sigh of relief. Sometimes you don't want to like say, okay, well, I'm not happy here. But if you write it out, you'd be like, let me think about this a little bit more. You know what I mean? Like it makes you think more. And
Mm-hmm.
I think journaling for me, I like to journal. And then after I journal, I like to read the Bible and pray. So it brings me more
Mm-hmm.
closer to God. So whatever I write in my book, I can pray it to God and say, "Oh, God, can you help me with this?" Or how, like, bring me answers to how should I approach this situation. So
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
think, go ahead, Keisha.
No, I was gonna say that's such a good point, Kim. That was all I was gonna
Yep.
say. Good point.
thank
I
you.
was gonna say I think journaling helps, like you said, make it real. Sometimes when
Yep.
you're going through the moments, you don't realize that you're in the thick of it, that it's crazy, chaotic, and people from the outside looking in, I'm like, oh my God, how is she still standing today?
Mm-hmm.
And you're just like you said, pushing it down so you don't have to deal with it. You just ignore it. But then when you write it down and you look back and you read and you're like, oh, maybe I do need to make a change. Maybe I need to do something different to get out of this. And what is it that I can do by reading it? Because you try to ignore it and keep on. I got to go to work. I got to take care of the kids. I don't have time to think
Mm-hmm.
about it. But when you sit down and write it, you have no choice but to read it now.
Right.
So, Keisha, what if someone who doesn't believe in God sees your journal? How can it benefit them?
So yeah, I have had people that from different faiths or don't necessarily believe in God use a journal because most of the time when people are looking for like a tool to write in, they more so lean into like their spirit or intuition, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
do exactly what you described, which is one part of your journal where you said like there were things that you want to achieve or things you want to do. They use it as a best practice for putting out there into the universe what
Yeah.
they want to see and do. And just a side note, when you do use a journal or any paper for that, studies show that if you use a blue pen, it makes it more
Mm-hmm.
memorable for you and it makes it more visible, right? Because blue versus black, it makes it
Mhm.
more visible. And that too is just something like of an energy shift. Because most of us don't use blue pens if you think about it, right? But
Right.
if you use blue pens, it actually highlights it on the page and it makes it more like realistic for you to actually achieve it because you're going to remember it in your mind. You visually remember it.
Mm.
But yeah, so people who don't necessarily believe in God, I have found usually have some source of light that they believe in, whether it's the universe, their ancestors, things like that. And they use the book for the same purpose.
Okay, so now I gotta go get a
Okay.
blue pen tomorrow.
Right, me
Yes,
too.
girl. When I got my blue pen, I got my blue pen, and I'm not gonna lie
I
to you.
got mine already.
Oh,
That's why your life is so good. That's why
Right.
you out here
yes.
looking like. That's why the queen you are. I was definitely shook writing in the blue pen. I was like, oh, this is a whole lot brighter. Because I
Mm.
also love writing in pencil. So I was like, this is
Yes,
Mm.
yeah, I love writing in pencil,
me
Mhm.
right? And
too.
I again, it's like getting out of your comfort zone. It's like taking that class or that yoga class, Pilates, whatever everybody's doing these days.
Right.
And you want to do it, but then you're like, oh, if I do this, I might like it. And then what? And then
Mm.
now you have to
Yes.
figure it out. So it did make a difference but I was like for 2 seconds, like a little bit like, oh, startling to see on the page.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
besides journaling, what are some techniques that you use to balance life with being a mom, being a wife, and a working woman?
Definitely the tribe. So moments just like this. That's why the name of my company is Tribe Life. My coaching is tribelifecoaching.com because the tribe is exactly why we are all able to manage everything we manage. And that tribe, and I'll give a lot of kudos and credit and love to you and your family. I remember when Steph went to the prom. Like I wasn't even a member of your family, but I was like, oh yeah, Stephanie going to the prom today. Like it was you like those moments. I remember like you get what I'm saying. Those moments that you have
Mm.
with people in the past, in the
Mhm.
future, in your now. That tribe at your job, Stephanie, I feel like I'm a member of that tribe. I feel like I'm
Yeah.
be at the 8 o'clock meeting
Yeah.
tomorrow. I feel like Kim, if I see the manager that you had from
Yes.
before, me and her are gonna be a problem. But also, I'm gonna thank her. I'm gonna thank her for bringing you to where you are today because otherwise you may have been still stuck with her and not doing
Yes.
this and changing the lives of millions of people.
Right.
Hopefully, every single time you record a podcast. So thank you, manager, for not doing what you needed to do so we could do what we gotta do. But it's
Amen.
like it's the tribe for me. Like that's where I
Mhm.
find my energy going back to the people who at a time in your life were there when you needed them. They need you now, that you love
Mm.
and adore, that could really appreciate your presence. And I think that and those people can be in your family, they could be in your work community, but really finding your tribe and spending time with the tribe. That's where I
Mm.
find the most balance in life and with God and the tribe, because you always pray for your tribe. Each of us do it, even if we don't think we're doing it. Like the meeting tomorrow at 8 o'clock. That thing's gonna go so
Yep.
good because I'm already online. Like, come on, Jesus, my
Oh,
like
thank you.
Kimberly's going in there, and already Stephanie. I'm like, oh God, somebody's having a baby. Wherever Stephanie is, she's got it. Then Kim, she's built. Like, I love the sweatshirt. She's the designer. And like you naturally. When you build your tribe, you naturally have, without you even knowing it, someone
Mm.
putting more energy into the universe for you that is going in your favor. So
Yeah.
that's how I believe the tribe works.
That's amazing.
That is amazing.
Keisha, we want to thank you for coming on our show. Where can we get the book?
On Amazon. That's the only place where it's where it's at right now. There are different versions of it. And you are welcome, like I said, to share it, the link to it.
Okay.
And also like the reason why I made this journal is because a lot of us don't have necessarily a tribe and we're with
Mm.
our own
Yes.
emotions. And when you get this gift from someone, like you mentioned, people in the hospital, a lot of women in the hospital after have a baby, you think it's 100 people in there. There's not.
Mhm.
Or
They're not
sometimes
in
a
there.
hundred people is just too much.
100 people is
Right.
too much,
'Cause
and
Right.
you're dealing with
visitors are doing
everybody.
too much.
Right, they're just doing too much, and they're taking your baby away from you, and you can't speak.
Right.
And when you can't speak the things you want to speak, a
Yeah.
journal is a real good place to be like, well, my
Mm.
new mother-in-law is like, and I'm just go, and you do that, and I think that like you said, like where you can find it is Amazon for sure. But what it's meant to be is a gift, from me as someone who designed it. Same thing you can get at Walmart. It doesn't have any prompts in it, but you're getting it from somebody who is designing it based on the fact that they know that your good is happening next. And that
Mm.
itself has a lot of momentum versus just something that you buy on the street.
That's
Absolutely.
right.
Yeah.
And where can everyone follow you so they can keep up with you?
You can follow me on Instagram, Tribe Life. on Instagram, and I'll give you all the handles, and you can put it in all the descriptions and stuff. On Facebook as well. I am on LinkedIn, and that's where if you want to talk about more career-based opportunities, learning about how to really manage like your energy levels at work and things like that, that's where you'll find that information, as well as like how to design your career for your best.
Mm.
Yeah.
And then with your life coaching, are you like speaking to people? Like, what if someone is like,
Yes.
I want to speak to Keisha about what I'm going through?
Yes,
Right.
yes. So yes, if you go to tribelifecoaching.com, there's an interest form. You can fill it out. Then we'll do a call. We'll talk about what's important to you. I do have something called the ELI, which is an energy leadership assessment or index assessment, and it allows you to take it. It's only 15 minutes or so, and it allows me to see like where your energy levels are, where we can
Mm.
shift energy, like how much of your energy is that destructive catabolic energy, or how much of it is that positive anabolic energy, and how you can shift and use that to your best use for work, home, life, and in general.
Mm.
All
Amazing.
amazing things.
It
Oh,
is
Amazing.
well, yeah.
amazing.
Well, I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. I'm so excited.
I,
I'm so thankful for this podcast. Someone told me a long time when I was in business school that when people create and design things, it's because someone else in the universe needed it. And that's why you always have to
mm.
develop the products that you want to, or that come to your mind, because someone else really needs it. So I hope that, I know I'm the first guest, and I hope when you have 500 other guests that I'll be watching all of this, because it's definitely needed. As long as you think of a product, service, or design, it is needed by someone. And as long as you fulfill that need, you will always be in business. So congratulations and kudos to y'all.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you. And
Thank you
you.
thank
so
Thank you to
much.
you.
We
you.
appreciate you.
Yes, we
Yeah.
do.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for your time.
Uh,
Yes, absolutely.
Steph, you want to give the ending quote?
Yes. So today our quote is by Greg Anderson and it is the concept of total wellness recognizes that our every thought, word, and behavior affects our greater health and well-being. And we, in turn, are affected not only emotionally, but also physically and spiritually.
Mm.
We want to thank everyone for watching, and we'll see you next week. Wait, no. Next week
Nope.
we won't be here.
Oh,
No, we won't be here. We'll be back.
Next week we won't be here. It's Thanksgiving. We're going to spend it with our families and enjoy
Hmm.
the time with them. We'll be back December 3rd with all new episodes. You can catch up to our other episodes on YouTube at Calm Before the Storm podcast. Like, share, and subscribe. You can follow us on our social medias at Calm Before the Storm podcast. We're trying to give you all the information.
Uh-huh.
If there's any ideas, topics, or comments, you can send us a message on social media, or you can email us at thecalmbeforethestorm@gmail.com. Once again, Keisha, thank you for being on the show. We love
Thank
you,
you.
love you.
Love you,
and
girl.
we will see you guys next time.
All right,
Thank
bye.
you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.